So maybe just talk about your business and how you came involved in gyms and all that sort of stuff. Just be pretty basic questions, and you can answer as much as you can or as little as you want. It's up to you.
Okay, so how I got involved in gyms, I got a phone call from Gyms Plus, and this was around about probably about a year and a half ago, and I started doing the Gyms Plus work, and I wasn't quite sure. I'm like, oh, I've got this company ringing me up. Like, obviously, I knew like gyms from the gyms branding, but I didn't know much else. And I started doing the Gyms Plus work, and all of a sudden, it became 50% of the work I was doing currently with my current antenna business that I had at the time.
Okay, so you had a current antenna business for a while, and you just use this as an extra lead source.
Yeah, so
Yep.
I basically was using it as an extra lead source, and I've been in telecommunications for nearly 12 years now, and I was using it as an extra lead source. I thought it was great to get extra work in where I'm not actually advertising myself. It was great to help my business at the time. And then all of a sudden, the work that I was doing for Gyms Plus was 50% of my work that was coming in. So that's when I reached out, because I actually had done a little bit of work through Mark at the time. He was the master franchisor for Northern New South Wales. And I reached out and said, hey, like, I've done a couple of jobs around Lismore for you before. I've been doing the Gyms Plus work. How about I have a look at doing the franchise, because I'm doing so much gyms work as it is. And he's like, well, like, obviously he was quite happy for me to come on board with my experience. And yeah, he said, let's do it. And we obviously talked and worked out the process of getting started with gyms. And at the time, and like with all the coronavirus happening, I didn't actually get to come down to Melbourne to do the franchise training. So I ended up doing it online, and I actually got a lot out of the gyms training. Just a few of the processes in my business at the time I changed, and it was all happening fairly quickly, because at the time I was only working by myself. And within a few months of actually starting with the gym's antennas, I've like went from myself to having one person that I was teaching at the time, and then I ended up getting a person that was already qualified on. And yeah, within 6 months, it went from myself to having 5 technicians and having a customer service lady to do the like job bookings. So the business grew very quickly.
That's very impressive, because it's interesting, because when we obviously interview a lot of franchisees, it's always from professional corporate background or something completely different. Whereas you've had you had an antenna business, or you had a communications business by yourself already, yet you've come in via that way. So how would you compare the difference, just like having that independent business experience, which you've done, compared to the franchise? What's the difference for you?
The biggest difference between obviously having my own business to now working with gyms is obviously you do get a lot more support. And if something's not quite working with your advertising, for example, I can reach out to Mark or to Heidi through the gym's antennas and say, hey, like, at the moment, like, we're not getting enough leads or we're not getting enough work through. What can we do to obviously improve the leads coming through? And some of it's stuff that obviously I can do as a business owner, like following up clients to try and get more 5-star reviews, which play a big part on on the advertising. If people see that you're doing a good job all the time and you got lots of 5-star reviews, it definitely helps win the job. And even when they first initially, before the customer actually makes the phone call, they've got to make that decision. Do I call company X or do I call gyms, knowing that through gyms you do get the brand name and you get someone who's reliable and will do the work. So it's a big decision for customers. So having that extra support, is definitely helpful. Not only that, with the other franchisees as well. So it's not just with the master franchisors, it's actually the other franchisees. When we started Starlink, for example, I'd never done one, so I got there and reached out, and I'm like, who's done some Starlink jobs so far? And a few people got back to me, and we went from there. And I already had a good understanding before we went out on site because it's such new technology. And any little things that come up, because if we find like we're having these issues in the Northern Rivers, generally everyone's having the same issues with a different technology out there that comes along. Some businesses, like when they do their updates with their technology, can cause issues, and to have that network out there, hey, I'm having this issue, is anyone else having it? And it helps being able to resolve any issues.
Do you think having that, well, that support's been the reason why you've been able to build such a pretty big business in a short amount of time, whereas because you don't have to worry about all that other stuff, right? You don't have to worry about the marketing, you don't have to worry about the website, you don't have to worry about really, and if you've got any issues, you can get the support. So was that the reason why you think you were able to scale so quick, or was it the amount of work, or what was the reason why how you grew your business?
It'll be a few factors. Having the work is definitely the main factor. So when I started, uh, like I was getting gyms leads to start with through Gyms Plus, and then Mark obviously said, "Well, we'll actually do some advertising for you now." Everything that you've been getting up until now has purely just been through the gym's brand name. So once the advertising got turned on, and we do a few different sources of advertising, it just grew so quickly, and I was a little bit caught off guard at the time with how quickly it would grow. And we've been doing some great work, and I'm really proud of the little team that I've built in the business, and like developing the processes internally on how everything runs. Can be challenging sometimes because you don't normally go from like one person by yourself to like 5 or 6 people in 6 months. So that in itself creates lots of challenges, and it did take a little bit of time, like especially coming up to Christmas last year. We were really struggling with the amount of work that was coming through, and at the time I didn't have a customer service officer in place, and there was a few jobs I missed, and obviously I was really struggling at the time because we don't want to give that customer experience where we're not fulfilling the 5-star service. So I had to have a hard look at that, and that's when I decided to put the customer service officer in place. So that way I want to get jobs that I'm missing while I'm out working. And even now, it's at the stage where I'm trying to remove myself from the tools and only go out on the technical or the big jobs or a few of the specialty ones, and have the staff trained up to where they need to be and where they can take lead and give a good customer experience. So it definitely creates challenges as well with growth like that. But I'm really proud of the team that we've got in place at the moment and building. So yeah, it just takes time sometimes, and obviously I've got goals, and I think one of the goals I put down when I did training was to create $1 million business within 12 months. And yeah, I'm definitely on my 12-month mark would be, without looking at the figures, will be pretty close to being around that figure. So,
well, congratulations. That's a really, really good achievement. And it sounds like it's an obvious question, but do you think you would have been able to scale the business to your independent business to $1 million the same way you have done with gyms?
definitely not. That's like you'd be able to scale it over time, but you definitely don't have the resources there by yourself to scale it with the marketing, and you don't have the resources there to be able to. You often hear about business owners having to wear all these hats. And one of the hats will be like marketing, for example. One's your finance, one to make sure bills are paid, and obviously bills are coming in. So being a business owner, sometimes you've got to wear all these hats, and it can be very challenging. So it definitely streamline the process, having that support there, especially with marketing, which is probably one of the most challenging things for any business to do. Is the marketing.
It's expensive too. Like, you'd know, as an independent business owner, you would have had to do your own website and all that sort of stuff, and it can be expensive.
Yeah, and that runs away in costs. Like, I did get one done a few years back, and I think that was a good $6,000 and it ended up being just for a website. And then websites need to constantly be updated, so that way Google always ranks it high. So it's not only having a website built, but it's having a good person that understands everything on what needs to be done to keep your websites current, and your Google and all the medias that marketing and leads come in from. So it is, having like one less stress is key when having a business, and you have a few different hats that you've got to wear, and without it, it just makes it really difficult. Anybody that's grown a business in any short amount of time, like I had a business previous, which I grew prior, doing Foxtel work, but we heavily relied on the Foxtel contract for the turnover, and we did a little bit of antenna work. So back when I had that business down in Orange, it was a similar thing, but instead of growing it to this stage in 6 months, it took a few years to get to that stage. To give you an idea of the changes, so to get to six staff, I think it took me nearly 3 years, where we did that in 6 months on this business, and that was still having a support of a major contract behind us. Where this time we don't have the major contract. We're literally just talking, like dealing with individual customers between residential and commercial. So we have started some bigger work now with a few clients, because Lismore and Ballina has been through a flood. So that's created challenges there. When the flood went through, we couldn't get out of Ballina for a week, and that was difficult. So we basically, it was that wet as well. We couldn't work for a good week when the floods were happening, nor did we have any communication at the time. So when the Lismore Ballina floods, the Northern Rivers floods happened, we we couldn't even make phone calls out. The internet was down. All the 4G Telstra and Optus towers went down, and so at the moment we've started doing the disaster recovery pods in New South Wales, which have been a big you get out on site, and I guess it means a little bit more there when we're doing that sort of work for the customers, and hearing the stories of what people have been through as well with the floods in New South Wales. Like some people have been told like they won't be back in their houses for another 2 years, and it's already been nearly 6 months, and they're already getting told like time frames of like 2 years. And obviously with the building going on in the Northern Rivers at the moment, it creates a challenge, and you've got all these builders so busy doing work, and at the same time there's so many houses that normally would be servicing for antennas, but they're not even in their houses for when their antennas start playing up or start getting old, for us to go service them as well. So to be able to do the disaster recovery pods and get TV on the customers, and hearing their stories and talking to them what they've been through, it's definitely touching, and it makes it's definitely hard. Even myself, like I had 2 other businesses before, with the antenna business, Mega Pizza and Baskin Robbins in Lismore, which got flood affected, and Baskin Robbins has been completely shut, and is 100% wiped out. We couldn't even recover any equipment from there because the ceiling fell down on all the equipment. And then with Mega Pizza, it's been 6 months, and we're still over a month away from being able to get it reopened for the pizza shop. We're very close. Super lucky that, like, being in the trades in the Northern Rivers, I know lots of trades as well, which has helped actually getting work done there. If I didn't know, like, the builder and electricians and different people to get it done, like, we wouldn't be so close to getting it reopened. So the whole area up here has been through a lot at the same time, and I have to be like very grateful that I actually had the Jim's Antennas business and security business going at the time, because otherwise I would have been without income as well. So super lucky that I started Jim's business when I did. Like timing of the flood and everything, it's been a challenge with the staff. So we've pulled through it, and hopefully in the next month or so, like along with a lot of customers in the next 12 months to 18 months, everyone can pull through and hopefully get back into their homes. So
no, it's definitely something that's definitely not forgotten about, but unfortunately the media moves so quick on it, and there's obviously still a lot of recovery to go on, as you said, and it could be 12 months, 18 months before people start getting back in their homes still, which is quite, I don't think a lot of people would know that from, let's say, who weren't in the area. So it's quite shocking to hear.
And that's the sad part about a lot of this stuff that happens in the media. They're always about the latest story, but they don't go back to the big stories. Like, I remember when the flood was on, the only media coverage we had of the flood, and the only communication of what was happening was on the news, because all the other forms of media was down. So if we didn't have our TV antennas on the roof, funnily enough, we wouldn't have known what was going on. And so without without the media, they were great at the time, but they've left pretty much so quickly. And like you hear of people still now across the border in Queensland staying in motels and holiday parks, and they can't actually get back to Lismore or Ballina or Mullumbimby or Wardell and all the other towns affected around it. And they're still trapped hours away, not being able to be in their local communities. So with the disaster recovery pods, obviously getting them back closer to home is a big key factor as well. And yeah, it's a process. But then there's the other side of it. Like I was talking to one lady about 2 weeks ago, and she said she'd still been in a tent, and she just couldn't do it anymore. And when she got offered to go to the site where we're doing the disaster recovery work, she was like so grateful to have a dry roof over her head, because even though the flood's gone away, the rain has still been fairly full on. So.
Well, hopefully hopefully it gets better. It's the worst of it now, and hopefully it keeps getting better. And it's good to hear that you've been able to, I didn't know Jim's Antennas was involved in the disaster recovery pod. So that's something people might not know about. So maybe do you want to talk actually, what is a disaster recovery pod? Like, I don't know too much about it. Maybe do you want to tell people how you're involved
in a disaster recovery pod, there's smaller ones, and then there's a few coming through now, which have like 3 bedrooms in them. So like there's single pods, double pods and triple pods, depending on what you actually need for your circumstance. They're set up with a like bathroom, a dishwasher, like microwave, washing machine. So what happens is the construction company obviously comes through and gets the site ready, and for the plumbers and the electricians to come through. They get there and do their part, and then the pods get lifted on, and the plumbing and the electricity then gets connected from underground. And then we come along and do the TV antenna for each pod, and warm out the TV. So that's been a big project. Like normally when we do TV antennas, like we might do one on a house, and sometimes you get like the odd farmhouse where you might get 2 antennas, or you need to check out and have a look at 2 antennas to see why they're not working. So to actually get a big site where we're doing lots of work, the first site is around between the 80 and 90 antenna mark, all on one site. So we've spent weeks out there doing the work, and it's great. Great to be part of the work that's going on out there. Definitely grateful, and it definitely helps my business as far as like my overall big business as well, as far as getting the pizza store reopened. And the other part that I've just recently about to start, and I went down to Melbourne and did the training, was the gym's test and tag and fire safety. So we've just kicked off there on the 1st of August doing the test and tagging as well, and which is something completely new to me. So I actually was at home one night a few months ago, and I actually on Facebook it popped up saying, gym's test and tag available in your area, contact us type thing. And I'm like, well, I'm already doing gyms, antennas and security, and I'm like, well, this might be a good little addition to my current business, because we are a service business, and it's not too far off the scope of work that we currently do. So I got there, and enter my details and got the call the next day from Brett, and obviously been speaking with Brett, and had a few discussions, and he's like, well, we've got no one that services the area up there. So I ended up, and it actually happened really quickly. He's like, oh, there's training happening, but we need all this paperwork done prior. And we all sort of rushed it through so I could get down and do the training in Melbourne. And that was the actual first time I actually been to the gyms group in Melbourne, and got to spend time in the test and tagging room for about 8 days, I think it was, and learning all the test and tagging, and it was just like great to see the bigger picture and meet some of the people down there, and see what actually goes on behind the scenes to what we do out in the field. So there's so many people involved in gyms now. It's it is like any business, has lots of large moving parts. So to be able to see like where it all happens, it's really good to see the back end of it.
Gymland's a bit of a big complex. Gymland, it's a big place. Did you catch up with Jim at all? So I'm telling you now, Cassie, I'm going to send him an email after this. Sorry about my dogs, but I'm going to send him an email after this, actually telling him about your plans for your business in 12 months, because we have we would have met Dan in training, right? So Dan Kay is one of our trainers who talks about scaling a business to a size, and I think you're going to surpass him in your first year by a long way if you can get even close to what your goal is. So it's very impressive. I'm going to embarrass you and send an email to Jim after this saying, hey, you need to hear from Cassie, who's been able to scale a business from zero to where you are within already 6 months, 7 months. It's quite impressive.
It's definitely like normally I can't say I've ever done a podcast before, so I wasn't too sure on like getting on and having a talk and talking to someone. Like a lot of the time, like with any business, you do it by yourself, and you really don't have like any support, or you don't get to hear about too many people's success stories. And with gyms, obviously, you do get to hear about different success stories, and I'm looking at the next 12 months now, obviously, with the gyms test and tag and fire safety, and even with the antenna business, like it's great that we get referrals to other clients, and we do get repeat customers where we might go do an antenna, and then they'll be like, hey, can you come back and do a wall mount for us, for example, or they might be having Wi-Fi issues or something down the track. So when we go to the job, obviously, and we do a great job for the customer, it's great to get those callbacks. But with the test and tag and the fire safety, obviously, it's a compliance thing where businesses need to be having their services done regularly. So looking at the longer term as well, we've grown the business of having that base income there through the test and tagging clients and the fire safety clients. So it's a really exciting opportunity, and that we've got there. And I can't wait to start growing that side of the business with the test and tagging. So
let's talk about the antennas and security side of it, Cassie. I just want to know, because people obviously hear the name Gyms Antennas or Gym Security and think it's just siloed to those services and that's it. So maybe you want to talk, Cassie, about the range of services that you do or you can do in your business, because there are a lot more than just the name.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realise, and lately we've been on TV a little bit with a gyms ad, and people have rang up and they're like, oh, I saw the ad on TV. I didn't realise that you guys did Wi-Fi, for example. And we've actually been doing a fair bit of Wi-Fi work where people, a lot of people get confused. They go into their houses and they've got a router set up for their internet connection, or they might have Starlink or whatever mode they've got their incoming internet, and they don't realise the difference between the incoming internet and the Wi-Fi connection that they connect up to in their house. and they walk away or they get too far away in their house from the router, and then their Wi-Fi starts playing up because they've walked too far away from the main source. So we can come along and add access points into the home. Currently, I've just moved into my new home, and I've set up a PoE switch, which powers the access points and 2 access points and the main router. So throughout my house, there's no black spots for Wi-Fi, and so it allows the network to work really well, and you don't have to worry about dropouts. Other services that we do, we've got Cellfi, which is 4G, 5G, and if someone's having struggle even getting mobile reception, we can go out to the house and put the 5G or 4G antennas on for their mobile reception. There's a little bit more involved to it than just going and putting an antenna up. We've got to work out what technology is best, what antenna will work best for the house and the location, because there's so many different towers for 4G and 5G, unlike your TV antennas where there's only a handful of towers. So every job's and little area is different to what we use or what the best method is to get the customer connected. And we've done some other big work as well with internet as well. A lot of people have trouble with their incoming connection, so Starlink's an option. And since it's kicked off, we do a heck of a lot of Starlink work. And that can be a little bit problematic sometimes as well if customers have a lot of trees around their home, working out like how high we've got to put the Starlink on people's roofs. Sometimes we've got to go on a taller pole so it doesn't get obstructed, for example. And then there's other options. We set one up in Austinville about 6 months ago where we did a 5G antenna for his internet, and we couldn't do Starlink because there was too many trees around his property, and even where his house was, we couldn't put the 5G antenna on because we couldn't get any signal there. So we had to put the 5G antenna about 6 meters up on his shed, which was about 100 meters away. And then we had to trench a cable back into his house. But we ended up getting him around the 350 megabyte mark, which is really a really quick speed. So, and it actually is faster than Starlink or 5G. So that little stories like that, people don't realize some of the skills that telecommunications technicians have, and obviously all us gyms guys are involved with. And even before I started doing the gyms, I never really did any of that sort of work. So I actually had to learn some of it myself when starting gyms, because it's a little new area that I never did work in before. So
that's really cool. And what about the security side? So there's home security is obviously a big market now. So what are some of the services under that you can do?
Yeah, so with the security, we do CCTV. That's probably one of the main ones. And obviously alarms. There's access control as well. So there's a few different people, I guess, that want security work done. For example, I have to say I actually went through, we're in a house painting it for a week that we just moved into, and I didn't even have a chance to get like any security in. And we were just here sleeping on blow-up mattresses, painting the house for a week before we moved in. And we actually got broken into ourselves while we were in the house. So I actually went straight to the wholesaler and bought cameras to put up. And one of the cameras that we put up is an AccuSense camera, which is newer technology. And you can actually set a grid for the CCTV and each camera. So if someone walks into that little area, it basically gives them a warning message. So and you can actually record your own warning message, or you can just say like, please leave
Or
this
something a bit
area.
more, yeah, something a bit more colourful than that as well. You could if you wanted to.
Yes. So at the moment, like I didn't have much time when I put the system in, so I just went with a generic one that was in the system, and it says danger, danger, and you're in the danger zone. Please
I'm
leave.
sure a lot of people could have fun with that in general.
And
Like even if you're not in a high risk area, I reckon just getting that in your place would be quite fun.
yeah, definitely. And like with AccuSense cameras as well, you can actually talk two-way as well. So you can set your phone up to alert you on activity as well through the CCTV. So if your phone obviously notifies you and there's someone at the front door, for example, you can actually talk through the cameras as well and get there and say, hey, like if it's a package for example, you can actually tell them to leave it somewhere, or if someone's casing your house, you can say, hey, I'm actually watching you case my house at the moment.
You have a lot of good fun with that one already.
So, yeah, I'm kind of like, not that I want the kid, like I'm assuming they're about the 17-year-old mark, the kids that broke in to our place, but not that I want them to come back, but like I'd love to see the camera footage if they do come back and the cameras start speaking.
A great video clip if you could get that one. That'd be a great one for promote the service.
Oh, 100%. Like, I'm super excited with the system, because at my old house, like, I just had a basic system in place. And this time around, I'm like, well, I'm going to do something where it actually alerts us, because people have been active in the area for break-ins. And I'm just like, well, instead of having a basic system that just does the recording, I'm going to go the next level. And the other part that I've got to finish off, like always with your own home, it's always the last place to get finished. So I've started putting in an alarm system as well. And because they actually got in through the garage door, and I have to say, like, they're pretty creative with the breaking in these days. So there's actually a YouTube channel that a lady alerted me to, that is how to be a professional thief.
Fair enough.
And you actually hop on there and you can see all the different ways that the thieves actually have at the moment for breaking into your house. And how they got into my new house was they actually used a small metal hook that slid between the brickwork and the garage door. And they put it up, and they actually pulled down the red lever, the emergency red lever that pops the door open. Never in a million years I'd think of doing something like that. So one of the things that I've done with the alarm, I'm actually installing a reed switch on the garage door. So if a garage door gets lifted or gets popped up or anything, my actual internal alarm will go off as well. So
yeah, well, you got all the systems to hopefully counteract it now. So with the security services, but I want to just ask you, Cassie, for someone who's watching this from a corporate background or something, because you've obviously come from a unique thing where you've had an independent business in a similar field to a franchise. Most gyms people aren't that; they come from unrelated fields completely. So what's the sort of, you don't have to say any figures, but like, what's the sort of money they can potentially earn, let's say within, the first year, or what's the lifestyle difference going to be from someone who's maybe working the PayYG 9 till 6 now, or 9 till 7 with all the traveling that goes on, compared to what you're doing? What's the sort of income they could probably potentially do? What's the lifestyle like comparison?
So the advantage of the gym's business and being self-employed, obviously you do have that flexibility. Like, say for example, you've got something going for your children, and you need to go to an event at school, obviously you can set your work around it, book your jobs in around it, or if you need to finish early, you can obviously finish early and go to those school events. So it does give that flexibility there as well, as far as being able to work and how much work you actually take on. So for myself, obviously I'm keen on growing the business as much as possible. So there's only been one occasion where I've actually reduced my work area down for taking leads, where we did get a little bit too busy. But most of the time, I'm trying to actively get leads and obviously, try and get as much work as possible and get as many as referrals as possible to keep growing the business. But if for any reason like it does get too much, one of the advantages, a little bit different for us out in regional, but a lot of the time, if you're in a city area and you turn your leads off, normally you've got franchise areas close by that are looking for work, and they can obviously do that work if you can't get to it. So, which obviously helps the overall Jim's brand. And you might come into the business with obviously not many customers if you don't buy a area. And you're trying to build a business, and you might be able to pick up that overflow from what the great work that the other franchisees do. And as far as dollars go, if you follow up your customers and provide good experience to them, there's no reason why you can't be between the $100,000 and $200,000 mark in turnover by yourself. Without having a offsider or an employee with you with the antenna work. It's all about doing a good job for each customer and getting those referrals and getting into the next job, and keep on building that client base in that way. It's like the work, what we do is constantly changing as well. With technology, it constantly changes. Like we've got Wi-Fi 6 out now, which is better than the previous Wi-Fi, which does faster speeds as well. So a lot of the technology where I was only getting up to 100 megabits prior, now we can set up Wi-Fi that does more than 100 megabits with Wi-Fi 6 as well, which is cost effective. It's as well, it doesn't cost an arm and a leg like some technology does that can do that sort of work. So technology is constantly changing with the different stuff that comes through as well. So if anybody is out there thinking that they want a career change, there's lots of different gyms, businesses that you can get supported into as well with the training. Obviously, I didn't have to do the training as far as the antennas go, but I had to learn about the security side of it when I come in. I had to learn a little bit about Wi-Fi and stuff, which I didn't previously do. And then the test and tagging was a whole new business for me. So with the test and tagging, obviously, I had to learn that from scratch. So obviously having that support there, or where you actually get trained, and everything's like you don't have to be a genius at something because how the gym's training set out, it allows for the people that struggle, and obviously there's people that are a lot more advanced, and then there's like if you're someone that has trouble learning, it's set out in a way to help you if you're not a good learner. Because we all, like even myself, like I struggle in the classroom. I'm a person who sees the work done by other people, and if someone shows me, I can do the work really well. But if you ask me the theory behind it in the classroom, if I'm just sitting there doing the paper learning, that's somewhere I really struggle. So yeah, it definitely helps having that support. And even afterwards, your master franchisors support as well. So if you do go out to site and you're not quite sure about something, obviously you can give them a ring and say, "Hey, I'm struggling with this. How can I do it?" Where if you start a business by yourself, you might be able to go do a course and get qualified if it's not a trade that requires practical experience as well. But you don't get that additional support or that training that you do in gyms. So it's a massive thing having the full process of being able to come to gyms and learning uh, from the start to the finish, or even if you're already in a similar business and you're thinking, oh, maybe I should like start a gym's business rather than being out there by myself, because you want that additional support and you don't want to keep on trying to do everything yourself. It does, yeah, there's great opportunities, I think, in every gym's division. Every time I listen to Jim, he's always telling us how hard it is to get enough people to cover the leads. So obviously, there's a lot of stuff going on out there, and a lot of leads that are going unserviced at the moment through the gym's business, and there's so much opportunity there. So if you are thinking of a career change and you don't like being in the office like I do too much, yeah, there's those opportunities of being out on the tools and meeting new customers every day, and obviously having customers grateful for you doing the work, and obviously sorting out their needs. It's always satisfying, especially when you come across work that others have been unable to do. I had one recently where the customer was waiting about 3 weeks for the local guy, and then he called up gyms because he couldn't get anyone. Not that we were that far away from the customer; it was only about half an hour from Ballina. Anyway, we ended up going up the next day doing the job, and he was super grateful for us getting there so quickly. For one, because he'd been waiting for 3 weeks, and then two, the work that we actually had to do was from the previous guy who he had out, where the antenna had fell off because when he put the new antenna on, he didn't actually replace the mount or double check that it wasn't going to rust through. So yeah, being on a coastal area obviously creates its own challenges with rust as well, with doing antenna work. So I had to fix up the antenna. The antenna had actually broken, so put a new antenna on. And then the cabling actually wasn't up to standard. Some of the cabling had been in the house since it was built. There were joins in the cable. One join that was in the cable was actually twisted together. So we ended up had 3 splitters in the system as well, which every time you put a splitter in creates loss. So we got there and fully fixed his system up and got it up to standard with bringing the cables that were RG6 up to RG6, which is the latest cable that we use in doing TV antennas. And yeah, we had one very happy customer, and he got everything sorted, and it was for his mother's house as well, so she could actually watch TV as well instead of not having much to do. When you're elderly, you don't get to get out as much, so TV is a very important part of your life when you're relying on others to take your places.
That's a great point.
So.
And I was going to say as well, the good thing with Jim's antennas is, as you alluded to before, was you've always got something to learn, and with the mowing division, for example, a lawn's a lawn. Really, you can get different technology and different things, whatever. But with your division with antennas and security, you've got to constantly keep learning for the new technology, and it keeps it really interesting, right? You just can't. There's no complacency in that division. Like there's always new technology trends you've got to get in front of, and it keeps it really. If you like learning, it's a great division to do.
Yeah, it definitely is a great division for the changing technologies and learning new things. And like some of the stuff that comes out, like you just think to yourself, it's so simple. Why didn't I think of something like that? And it can completely change the way that we do stuff in the homes and in different businesses that we service. And uh, a lot of the technology that's coming out actually makes it a lot easier for us to be able to service customers as well. Because some stuff that we were doing prior would take a lot of work to get installed, or there was limited technology out there and what we could actually use. So as the technology improves and people bring out more stuff, that you've got lots of options as well. And yeah, you can have. We sort of rely on some of our suppliers as well to guide us through everything that comes out. So that's another great advantage of the gyms business as well, with the gyms antennas, especially having that great relationship from the gyms antennas with the suppliers, and being able to be guided through the different technology that's out there is key as well. It's you don't like I've had lots of different experiences with suppliers over the years, where some of the sales guys were really knowledgeable, and some would just come drop off what you needed, and you wouldn't see them again for another 4 or 5 weeks until they were back in town again to drop your next delivery off, and they weren't very knowledgeable in what's coming out. So to have that resource there as well really helps as far as the gyms antennas goes. I constantly call the suppliers for different situations and go like, how is the best way to engineer this to achieve the best result? We recently did a motel in Lismore, and with the motel, it was flooded, obviously. So we sat down with the engineer, designed a new system. With the engineer, worked out what components we needed, and obviously installed the. I think it was 27 motel rooms plus a residence. And a few of the motel rooms had multiple TVs in there, so we designed the system, and the customer actually said at the end of it, geez, the picture's like crystal clear. And to what was there prior with really old cabling and technology, even though he had digital prior, the cabling was really old. It would have been put in back around the 80s or 90s. And we updated the cabling, and then we obviously had to put a new head end in with the newer technology. And because everything was brand new and done properly, we were able to send 1080p through the rooms for the Foxtel, rather than having a scratchy picture or standard definition 576 running through to the room. So now, obviously, that's a selling point for him, like for the motel, having that extra.
No, it's
service
fantastic,
there.
and you obviously sound very proud of your work, which is really, really great to hear. You know, it's always good hearing from gyms franchisees and talk about customer service and their jobs and stuff like that. It's really good to illustrate to customers just the gym's difference compared to, let's say, other independents. And I was going to say, what's some advice, because you've gone from a really I think if you hit your goal, as I was saying earlier, you would be probably the most successful franchisee in the first year in terms of revenue, or you go close to it, to my knowledge. So what's your advice for someone starting out on a journey? Obviously, you've had a very successful, a successful business person already. So what's your advice to someone who maybe it'll be their first business? What's your advice to them?
Definitely the customer service. I always come back to it. And one thing I kind of lacked with my business down in Orange I had back a few years ago, uh, when when I had that business, we were doing a lot of contract work through Foxtel, and obviously Foxtel were providing a lot of the customer service side, and then with Baskin Robbins being a franchise as well, and having that American style customer service, I learned a lot from it. And then um, I'd always say customer service is the most crucial part to any business. And then when I did the gyms training as well, obviously it comes back again to great customer service. So having done a lot of customer service in retail over the past 5 years, it's actually helped me uh, with the gyms business that I've started. And it's so crucial. To give you an idea, if you go out and do a job, and the old saying goes, you do a bad job for one customer, they'll tell everyone they can think of for the next few days how bad a job that you did for that customer. If you do a great job, they'll go and tell one or two friends. So it's really important that you do good customer service, so they go tell their one or two friends, and they don't go around saying, "Oh, don't use these guys. They don't give good customer service. They don't know what they're doing," type thing. And sometimes it might be being honest with the customer as well. It might be they might have a question or want you to do something that you haven't done before, and it might be, "Hey, I've never done one before. Let me talk to a supplier, talk to another gyms franchisee that has done one, and I'll get back to you and work out what I can do to get your problem solved." So yeah, some of it might be, "Hey, like I haven't done one, but like I can talk to someone that has, or I can look into it." And one of the great things of having the network is being able to go back and like once you learn or talk to people, go back to the customer and being able to do it. As I say, technology is constantly changing, so with the gyms and tennis, so it's not something that you'll always be able to keep on top on, or someone will have something that you've never seen before, and you do have to do that research and get that support to be able to service the customer on their needs.
Fantastic. So we've gone for nearly an hour then. So thank you very much for your time, Cassie. I know you're very busy, so thank you for giving up an hour of your time to talk about your business, and congratulations on your success. It's very impressive, and from what I know in my 11 years as gyms, I reckon if you get close to that target, you're definitely the most successful first year franchisee in gyms, and like that's ever to my knowledge.
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting. Yeah, we're just obviously at the end of the it'll be pretty close to the end of the 12-month mark. I believe it was around August last year that I started, so it'll be interesting to see where we ended up getting up to turnover wise for the last 12 months. It's definitely going to be an
Congratulations! It's very, very impressive.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Lee, and hopefully, anybody that jumps on obviously can get there, and feel free to reach out as well. More than happy to answer questions if anyone does have questions about starting with gyms. And anything else that comes up, or if you're part of the gyms antenna network, it's always great to have a chat and talk about the different products out there. So if anyone watches and is thinking about doing a gyms franchise, more than happy to have a chat to anyone. with now having two franchises, it's with gyms, it's probably a good candidate for answering some
Absolutely.
questions
Thank you
if
for
you're
that
not
offer,
sure.
Cassie. No worries. Thank you.